ITC's BioX secretary. I'm also the moderator for today's session. And thank you very much for coming out. It's really quite something to see all of you here. Let's see if you can justify your decision. That might be a good aim to see if we can make it worthwhile. So I could also introduce our speaker, but I personally don't feel it is absolutely necessary. Tushar Jadhav is the CEO and co-founder of Manastu Space. He's also an ex-DRDO scientist, and he did his BTech and MS in Aerospace here at IIT Bombay. And this list of credentials would just go on, and we would almost certainly exceed the time limit. So is it all right if we just dive into the subject? Yes, Tushar?
Sure, absolutely.
Sure, then. So we'll just start with something very simple. So what got you interested in space? Is it sort of like rooted in the fascination that all of us have to become astronauts back when we were kids?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be completely wrong after I said no, definitely. So, for me, the story goes in a way that my father was in HL. So every day or regularly at home, we used to see a calendar filled with one of the HL product, either helicopter, fighter planes like Sukhoi, Tejas, or Kiran, or one LCH helicopter. So since early days, I've been fascinated about those things, and my father and his friend, they used to talk about different plane, their integration, some assembly. He works at that area. He works at that area. This is going to be delivered now. This project has come, and so I was very much fascinated, and aware of what is going on. And this engine, this fighter plane has two engines. This one has a single engine. This role is that. This role of this fighter plane is that. So that's how slowly interest into the fighter plane started. And so that was when I was a kid. And then as I was slowly growing up in 2010 or so, there's a lot of development was happening in terms of space shuttle era, and India is also coming up. So watching out on the news, every time we used to see that rocket fly, that was the day that I used to feel like something is amazing is happening. I didn't know what exactly it was doing, what the satellites do, because it was a young age and not so much of awareness those days. But it just felt right, and so that's how the interest started in the field of aerospace engineering. And of course, seeing then once we grew up, and then started understanding more about the technology and all. Then of course the moon mission was a big part of it, like how we went to the moon, how we landed there, understanding those things. And that created a fascination of being an astronaut, being close to this field. And of course, astronaut, everyone wants to either you want to become a pilot or you want to become an astronaut. And so that led to the start of interest into the aerospace field. So when I cleared the JEE and when it came to choosing the field, it was sort of a natural choice to what to go for, and it was IIT Bombay. And then aerospace engineering was a very natural choice because I had all the background about how things fly and what goes into the fighter plane. Those were very close to my heart. So that's how the journey of aerospace engineering started.
All right. Is that true that during our third year here at IIT Bombay, you were also the project manager for the student satellite program?
Yes, it's absolutely true. I mean, you can find it in my resume if you don't trust it. It's not a hidden secret. To continue the story, when I got into IIT and got aerospace as a branch, I was looking through the website, IIT Bombay website, and the aerospace engineering our department website, and then I came across something very fascinating. This was 2009. By the time building a robot was decently common. But I saw that there is a team who was building a satellite. And that was like, this is something fascinating. And building a robot, it's okay. People are doing it. We knew that time it was, people are doing it. But building a fast satellite was not heard of. And that caught my eye. And then I started searching, going through the website, what are they doing? I couldn't understand 80% of those things. I could just see, okay, this is something satellite, it will go into the space. working with the ISRO. So something that goes that. And then when in the first week, IIT assigned you the mentor. So then I started talking to my mentor. Like, I heard there is a project called Pratham Satellite. Some students are building it. Do you know anything about it? And he said, I am a project manager of that project. And I only started the project. It was Saptarshi Bandappadhyay. He was my mentor. And I was like, this was a match made in heaven. That he being my mentor. And then I worked very hard at the end of first year to get into the team, because the selection process is a 2-3 tier selection process, and then got into the satellite team at the end of a third year. And at the end of a first year, and then slowly second year, third year, I became a project manager and took over all the operations, technical, non-technical part of uh, the responsibilities of the project.
Yes, and then finally seeing your satellite launch, that must have felt like a dream come true for you, since you've been interested in this field for so long.
Oh, that is amazing. That is another story. So the project started in 2008 or so, and it has gone through the multiple stages, I will say, where it came close to being launched in 2012, and then there was no one in the team to continue, and it came to that level that should we shut down the project or continue it again. And then we revived the team. We took more team members, and then again rebuilt everything, and many things from rediscovered, many things that was lost in the process. And and then after a lot of hassle, convincing ISRO to extend the MOU, re-sign the MOU afterwards, and convincing IIT Bombay, after a lot of hard work, in 2016, we could finally launch the satellite. So that was a one hell of a roller coaster ride. I mean, you can imagine convincing our IITians to work on one project for a long sustained duration is always a big challenge. And the biggest part is that not just working, but working and building something to the level that ISRO allows to put it onto their launch vehicle, the PSLV rocket. So that was, and you can't have a student or the team member coming and going every 6 months or 1 year. You want people to stick with you for long duration till maybe final launch, so that they know the whole process. Because every time someone changes, there is a lot of gap happens. Even though you can try what your best to do the knowledge transfer, the people who have built it plays a very significant role. So for that, that was a one hell of a roller coaster ride. How we built team which could last long, because for a student project, as you must be very aware, that is the biggest challenge, to convincing team members to work for extended period of time, given that we have so many activities going on in IIT Bombay, academics, cultural, personal, and other student activities. So that was one hell of a journey, and we could learn. We got to learn. Of course, the technical part is obviously there, and we got to know hands-on experience of building some space grade technology, and we can say the system that we build is currently up in the space. Apart from that, we got to work with very we had to improvise, or we had to learn on our skill in terms of a personality management or team management, and leadership to be more important, so that we could convince all the team members to work for long duration without paying anyone any grade, any salary or anything. So for extended period of 3 years, 4 years, for that we had to come up, level up our leadership skill. And I think probably that is, if you ask me one skill that I will learn the most is that leadership, how to go through, how to build a team, how to sustain it for long duration, and how to ensure that team performs well when it matters the most. When you are in the ISRO doing a final testing and the test goes wrong, and then you have to figure it out then and there, what is the solution to that. And you have a few hours maybe before ISRO sent you packing back home. You have those crucial hours, and how to make the decision that time in that whole situation. That is one very important thing that we learn. Satellite building is, of course, you can learn That is, technical part is straightforward. You can learn through the books, you can learn through the courses, but this non-technical part plays very significant role.
It's definitely. And I think Rucha has a message, has a question that she has put in the chat. What type of satellites are you talking about that you have launched? I think Rucha is talking about the satellite program.
Yes, so to talk about the satellite, so the satellite name is Pratham. If you can go and Google, you can find quite a bit of information about it. Uh, the payload of that satellite was to measure the total electron count in the ionosphere. It's called TEC. So we are measuring the TEC in the ionosphere uh, that is there in the atmosphere. And the main idea was, can we build, space before the Pratham started, we didn't have a platform, or we didn't have that expertise in IIT Bombay to build a space grade system. We could build individual subsystem like a sensor. Professors were doing project or individual subsystem, but we didn't have in IIT Bombay a center where you have the expertise to build one complete system, and it is very different when building subsystem like a communication RF sensor or some temperature measurement or some kind of sensor. So the primary goal was, can we make IIT as being the premium institute, make it as a hub for space related activities, like the JPL is uh, for Caltech, not exactly the JPL, but something close to that. I mean, can we do encourage space related activities? So that was our first important goal, and where to start it. And as I said, we said the teams, our senior team thought we can start with building a small satellite. So that satellite was around 10 kg weight, and it is launched by ISRO on one of the PSLV in 2016. That currently is up there around 720-kilometer orbit. And the best part was it that all the students only built it completely, including the design, manufacturing, testing. Everything has been done by student. The technical part, non-technical part, not unlike many of the universities where the professors are building a satellite. So our team of IIT Bombay, we built on our own. And more than that, a very interesting thing we did for the satellite is we invited other universities who can come. We taught them how to build a ground station so that they can go back and build a ground station in their university and collect the data of our satellite, because every university can't build satellite. So to give them some flavor of a space, we taught them how to build a ground station, and that's how. And by building a ground station, a lot of people started their own satellite after that. And people who build work on a ground station in their university went on to go and do the masters and PhD in the area where they work when in the college. So that was we wanted to start a revolution in country about space and the student satellite, and we can actually take a lot of credit as a IIT Bombay team that we encourage. We supported a lot of other student satellites across the country. We did the reviews for them, give them a suggestion. We opened all our the design documents to them. So many of the student satellites have our earlier design documents who started early. So sort of we created our aim was to create that chain reaction where people can then go into that self uh, that development in the space sector, and that's what has started by Pratham, and one hell of a journey, and we could achieve the technical goal of building and launching satellite and doing the payload to some extent. But apart from that, the non-technical goals was achieved very significantly.
Yes, that's lovely. And for the attendees, if you all might have any questions during this session, please DM them to me. I'll take them up appropriately and at the adequate time. All right, I think Tushar, should we come to Manastu Space now? All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Sure, then I believe everyone would love to know how and what you do there. But I think what's even more important is why you do it. So could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the why we do is actually very close to our heart. For a simple reason, because what we do it may change with the time. Because one technology work, it may not work. One, it will get over. What next? The question will come once you develop it. So for that, the why part plays a very important role. So at Manastu Space, we believe that space has a potential to solve the problems on the Earth and make humanity, multi-planetary system. So we can go and that has actually come that, and again that will lead to the space having potential to solve the problems on the Earth. To explain it in more, uh, so now one of the application of a Pratham that we are working with a Paris university in Paris was using the data. Their plan was, can we predict the tsunami, can get an early warning of a tsunami basically. If we have a network of such a similar satellite, we can actually get the tsunami. And they were interested in the science part of it, and we were doing the engineering part of it. So, very early days in IIT, we found that this is really interesting way because space was not so big that time, 2012 or so. But then we realized this is a fascinating way to solve the problems on the Earth through space. And you get a completely different perspective of the Earth in terms of imaging. Also, the connectivity through the satellite is going to be a big thing. So all these things has they can work as a platform to solve the problems on the Earth, like an internet. Like internet is a platform where on top of it we have multiple apps to solve the problems. Something similar is a space. Like a space is a platform. On top of that, using a satellite, you create a lot of different applications which can help to solve the problem on the Earth. And so that's where we realized this is very fascinating, and that is you found our passion while building the satellite basically, and that's how that led to founding of a Manastu Space when the satellite got launched. And another thing was, so this covers our our purpose basically, that we wanted to make a solve the problems on the Earth, and in the process make humanity multi-planetary for a simple reason. We will run out of the resources on the Earth, we sooner or the later, and we need to go find a place on Moon and Mars and then come back, bring some of the resources that are plentifully available there for the betterment of the Earth. And in the process, we'll develop some of the fascinating technologies, like say growing a food on a Mars, building a habitat that is sustainable on the Mars, clean water technology. Many of those technologies, spin-off of those technologies can very well easily work or used on the Earth, like a desert. Desert is Indian desert, deserts in India, Sahara, Europe, Africa are not very different from the moon's atmosphere. So technology developed there can very easily be used on the ground. So those direct and indirect benefits are the space, and we are just beginning to scratch that benefits, and that's why that's exactly where the Manastu Space comes into the picture, with in terms of finding our purposes. And that purpose, start of that purpose lies down into the fact that we could build a Pratham which could have done, the idea of the Pratham was to make a impact on betterment of the Earth, predicting early warning of a tsunami. So that's where we found our purpose. On the day in 2016, to be precise, 26 September 2016, the day it got launched, that was the day our life changed, and that life changed like it was never before. It's like our baby that was getting launched into the space after hard work of 8 years and hundreds of our team members and hundreds and thousands of an hours invested into that. That was our baby. The baby who was taking flight into the space. The day we had everything. I mean, the day we cried like anything, and it was never the same again after that day. Seeing our satellite onto the top of ISRO rocket getting launched from Sriharikota, and we having this event in IIT Bombay, that was a phenomenal day. And that changed everything in terms of our passion. That day we found our passion, that we want to do something similar, which has a challenge which are the hard brakes, which are the technical, technical, which needs a technical brain as well as non-technical brain, as well as which has as a milestone. So that's when we found our passion. So purpose married with the passion. That's how the Manastu Space took a birth after the launch of Pratham. And that's how. And then after in 2016 end we started a work for Manastu Space, and in 2017 we officially started Manastu Space. So coming to continuing the question, so why we do is actually make it clear. So what are we doing and how are we doing? So to bring that benefits of a space to every common man, some of the problems that we are facing is that how can we make it sustainable? Sustainable in terms of a cost, sustainable in terms of environmental friendly, sustainable in terms of that it can be, can be done frequently and effectively cost basically. So that economy comes into the picture and the environmental factors comes into the picture. And that's exactly one of the important part of how what we are developing. So at Manastu Space, we are developing a green propulsion system. We call it as a green propulsion system in terms of safety, basically. So the fuel that goes into satellite currently is very toxic. People have died handling it. So government in Europe and US are planning to ban that, and it is very inefficient. Like if you study, if you know about ISP, like mileage for a car, this is ISP for the rocket engines, basically. So that is very low. So because of that, we need to carry more fuel. Satellite become heavy and cost increases, and the cost is one factor that has been holding space industry back for a long time. And thanks to a lot of innovations and development, those things are changing rapidly, and that's where we come into the picture. To replace this toxic, very inefficient fuel, we have built our own green fuel in terms of toxicity. It is as safe as common soil in our fuel, and it is around 25% more efficient in terms of like mileage for a car. Like a mileage, this is 25% more efficient. So you save as much as 20 to 25 to 30% per satellite. When you build millions of dollars of a satellite, 25% saving is adds up to the very significant saving. That makes the satellite lighter by millions of dollars, so that in this given cost you can launch multiple satellites and get a more benefit to the common man. So like what Geo did to mobile internet, something similar can be done to space industry once we can reduce the cost of access to the space. And that's where the green efficient propulsion system, one aspect of reduction of a cost, is what currently we are developing.
All right, so could you tell us a bit more about this green propulsion system and what advantages is this offering for us? And do we have any alternatives to this in the startup?
Yeah, right, exactly. So green propulsion system. So what happens is that when the satellite is up in the space, like a car has a steering, so satellites need some mechanism to move it around in a space, so that antenna is pointing towards the earth and the solar panel pointing towards the sun. So to do that, you need propulsion system. So especially for bigger satellite, that is important. For smaller satellite, there are other small techniques that can be used, but this propulsion system is used to correct the orientation of a satellite when it is in the space, or bring it down, or bring it to move it up. So therefore, those purposes, this propulsion system is used. So this happens. So this system comes into the picture when the satellite is separate from the rocket, basically. When the rocket separates the satellite, this propulsion system kicks in. So what is our innovation? We have to build a new fuel. To burn this fuel, we have built a new engine, and there is a catalyst material which acts as a spark plug. So it's a complete propulsion system is what we are developing. So as I mentioned, what are the benefits? Benefits are simple, two to threefold benefit maybe. First, the most important it is that it is as safe as common soil. Earlier fuel was as toxic as it was 2 times toxic than the Bhopal gas tragedy gas. And we know what happens because of the toxicity there. This is 2 times toxic. So any accident can lead to a lot of damage, life related or the collateral damage. Apart from that, The second most important is that it reduces the cost because it is safe. Of cost in terms of transportation, safety, handling, all those operational cost reduces because our propellant is as safe as common soil. And the third and the fourth most important I mentioned is that it is 25% more efficient. So imagine your car has a fuel, say petrol, diesel, or some X fuel. X fuel has a 25% more mileage. So what will that do is to go from say Mumbai to Bangalore, you will require 25% less fuel, and that much fuel you need to carry less, and that you will save that weight and the cost. So something similar happens for satellite. With a more efficiency, you need to carry that much less fuel, and satellites become lighter because of that, and you can save that much amount of money. So those are the most important cost benefit. Yes, in terms of alternative, yes, it's an international problem as you can see, and the people in the world have invested heavily. The NASA have invested. There is a European effort that has been going on. Some efforts in Japan going on. Where we stand, our system is even more efficient than the other alternative green propulsion system that has been built. So more efficient than what NASA has developed, what has been developed in Europe, and also cost effective. So cost of one system will be as much as 60% cheaper. So more efficient and cheaper. The affordable system is our one of the selling points.
Oh, that's really nice. And I think Aditya has a question for you in the chat. On the business perspective, how do you guys generate revenue and sustain the operations? What would you say are your target customers for this?
Uh, Target customers, we are targeting satellites. Satellites are our customers. So people who build a satellite,
Hmm.
will sell this to those satellites. It's like OEM, or original equipment manufacturer, to satellite manufacturer. So we are targeting currently sweet spot is somewhere around 100 to 200 kg weight satellite. So suppose if you are building 200 to 200 kg weight, our system will go into that satellite. So those are our customers. Currently we are in the development phase. Uh, so we are developing. Currently the development is going on. Once our development is done, we'll test this technology into the space where we put it into the satellite, do the testing there, and see it works as per the plan. And then we'll start the commercialization. We'll start delivering to the customers. And from the business point of view, all these potential satellite manufacturers, we are in touch with them, talking to them, getting their requirement, and getting more connected with them, so that once we develop this technology, complete product, we should be able to deliver to them. So that's how we work with them. So currently we are in the development phase. So revenue will start once we start delivering it. And currently we are working with Indian Defense also, DRDO, as a potentially system that can go into the Indian military satellites, as well as looking to collaborate, work with the ISRO also. Uh, yeah, so that is pretty much. And where we, so how so if someone people interested in the business or business side of it, so we we meet this customer because knowing the customer and getting close to them is very important. So we meet these customers who are in different conferences, events, competitions, workshops, uh, so that we are in touch with them. We always constantly talk to them, understand their requirement, likes of OneWeb, Airbus, Boeing, some of the small satellite manufacturers like D-Orbit and all of those. So we get connected with them through competitions, conferences, and then keep them in loop about the development as they are happening. And in the space, in the field of aerospace, be that of a fighter plane, commercial plane, or in the space sector, you don't wait for your product to develop completely. So what you do is that you start commercialization beforehand, so that by the time your product is completely developed and tested, you should be in a position to deliver it to the customer. So that means the commercialization and the product development goes hand in hand. So rather than doing one after the other. So,
All right, there's I think more questions in the chat. Someone's asking, what would the TRL be of the fuel that you have created here at Manastu Space?
yeah, so we finished around 6 TRL 6 doing work for 7. Uh, so 7, 8, we need to finish 7, 8, and then 9. 9 will be the flight testing.
All right. I think there are a lot of people that want to know about your journey as an entrepreneur, the sort of the complexities and the trials and tribulations that you have had to face, and especially since it's the space industry that's in a sort of its nascent stage as of now.
Mm-hmm. Uh, Put it in word, it's a hard. Okay, don't do it if you ask me, unless you want it really, really bad. Then and then do it.
Uh,
Otherwise, it's really hard. Uh, and ask yourself whether you really are interested in that. So our journey involves everything from going to Trivandrum where the VSSC is without a reserved ticket on a train sitting at the upper berth, hold 36 hours without any reservation ticket. Also, our journey involves almost getting killed. You can see in that accident in the aerospace department
mm,
while developing a product technology to to being broke multiple times in the journey, around 3-4 times in the journey of the of last 3.5-4 years. So that has so all those ups and downs, and of course upsides has been we are represented India in the world stage in some of the biggest space conference like ISC in 2018, and then in Japan in 2019, and then France, that was last year, that was online event. So we have represented India, Manastu Space at the international level uh, to the probably the biggest forums in the world. So that has been and the left side where we started, we have faced the problems. To the right side, we have been to the extreme end. So entrepreneur journey will encompass all these things, ups and downs. So for us, that journey has been, if you ask me to put it in a simple word, it was humbling. If you ask me to put it in one word, it was a humbling journey. Uh, because you can see ups, and when you go through so many ups and downs, you realize that this is not a straightforward job, and you need to be prepared for all the things that comes in the way. So that has gone through the process. So we started how it started. So we started in the IIT Bombay with a co-founder from IIT Bombay, and we got a support from IIT Bombay since a good way. So that's how the journey started, and finding a place to sit, finding a where to work, where to get money, getting a grant whenever you. So many things it has happened with us that we ran out of the money, or we're looking that we'll run out of the money in next few weeks, and suddenly we'll get some more money from somewhere else. And that has not happened once; it has happened more than 3-4 times. So if you really really love something, you'll get a help from unknown forces, uh, even when you don't expect them to come. And so that is how that's why saying that journey has been humbling. So we started in 2017, then took some time to figure it out what exactly we need to do. Then we figured out this is what we wanted to do. It took around 8 months to 1 year that this is exactly what we want to do. And then since then, technical getting into the technology, then learning about the business aspect of it. Earlier in IIT, we have this notion many times that if you build a good product or technology, it will automatically sell. That never ever happens in the life. So we learn that hard way. So you need to actually sell it. Well, however good you may be, but you need to sell it so that people can buy it. Not just the customer, to the investor, to the team members, so that they're willing to come and work, take a risk in your startup when they could have had easily gone and do some job, government job or big paying job. So you need to sell those things. So we learned that hard way. So that was the other part of it. Um, Miracle do happen. We have seen the miracle happen in the process. Small miracles that happen, but it needs a lot of persistence to get them to let the miracle happen. That's actually that is how I'll put it. And the entrepreneur journey has been fascinating. If you just, and it is, and the best part, it is a journey. Like you may not, so you're continuously going from one place to another place to another. It's a journey, so you need to understand that it's not a cricket match with a fixed rule that at the end of 50 years overs, your batting will get over, someone will come to bat after that, and then after 50 overs that will get over. That's not a life. That's not the business. So business is like a life. It goes on. So some people will come join you, then they will leave it to you. You will face a good days, you will face a bad days. So we have quite a fair share of all these instances. So through ups and downs, you learn, you grow, and you adapt as per the situation change. And sometimes you persist, sometimes you adapt depending on what is worth it doing, what is not worth it doing. So those have been the experience. So fascinating journey. If you ask me, should everyone do it? I would suggest everyone should do it, as long as. But if you do it, want to do it really bad, then you should definitely do it, because uh, I was in ICU bed for 6 days after this accident in burn accident, and in that ICU you get an ample amount of time. 6 days doing where you're not able to even move. 6 days is quite a lot of time to think, and in that thinking, in that time, one thing we realized that we were actually, I was close to death while doing something that I love. And if I was in that situation by not doing that what I love, and by something else, I would have regretted that. If something more would have happened and that I would not have been able to see the day, I would have been very sorry. And that regret is probably the most important thing that you never want to see when you are facing the death. And people realize it when they are 70, 80, 90 years old, when they are very close to death, when they see the death with the open eyes, that okay, and then they regret. We got to see it at very early days, and that's when we realize, no, this is the worst thing you can do, is that you have a dream, you have a mission, you have the complete vision in you, you have some passion, and not following it. So if you have those passion, willing to take a risk, I, I'll say the risk is other way around. If I would have died without doing what I love, that would have been the most risky thing to do, rather than taking plunge, doing a startup, leaving the DRDO job, and then maybe failing, maybe not. The not doing, following the passion would have been the biggest risk than the other way around. That you fail doing what you love and then failing. At least you get a satisfaction. You tried something. You learn so many things in the process. You learn the business. You see how the world works. You see how technology is evolving. You get connected to a lot of amazing people. You build a lot of huge network that plays a significant role. And as an IITian, job is, I think, the least last worry you should worry about. Uh, so if you are really passionate about, I suggest, please do follow that passion. And in the process, if you fail, come to me. I'll ensure that you get a job. That is my promise.
These insights about life that I've shared, I think those are really beautiful and eye-opening and in some level. So, and on top of all this, did the pandemic make things really interesting for you and your startup? I think they must have affected you in a large way, I guess.
Pandemic did affect quite a big way. I'll be wrong if I said no. But there is something very interesting happened in the pandemic. In the pandemic, government opened up lot of space related activity that was being only limited to ISRO. Uh, Government opened up, and even ISRO and government together, they opened up for a startup, and they recognize in a big way that startups can make a huge impact in the whole. It contribute to Indian economy, the space program, the employment generation, and till now they understood it for e-commerce and all these big other areas, but the space came into highlight last year in pandemic. and then all the policies that came up, and I think that was very interesting step for us, because you can do you can put all your efforts that you can, and in the process you need some support. You need support from your family, you need support from your government, you need support from some imaginary force. People call it god, you can call it nature, you can call it anything. So you need all kinds of support when, especially if you are developing technology in India of a scale where 99% people don't even understand many of the things. So you need all kind of support, and government support is probably one of the important. So that happened in the pandemic, and that was the important thing. Second thing happened, yes, of course, a lot of hardware development was stuck. So hardware development we stopped. We couldn't do that. So that affected things for sure. But being a startup people, what you do that you make the best out of the situation. So we took a back seat, we sat down, and then we saw the whole picture about what we were doing in terms of technology, what are the steps we are doing, what is the plan for it. So we took quite some time to come up with a plan A, plan B, plan C of all the areas what we were working on, and sat down, figure it out, what can go wrong, and replan some things, took it to the level that as soon as we get access to to the lab and setup, we should be able to test it. So plan A, plan B, plan C. So that is what we did last pandemic. So yeah, mix of the things. I mean, we got a contract from DRDO in the pandemic. So I would say it was completely bad, but it did set us little behind in terms of hardware development.
All right. Okay. And what would you say are your views on the current nexus of the Indian space industry? And I think space is sort of no longer a rich country and rich people's game, right? Do you feel the same?
Yes, definitely, for sure. It was just, uh, it was like every time that tipping point comes when things change. So some of the innovations comes in the way and things change. So for personal computers, that was there in 2000s, 90s, 2000s, where from having a big corporates owning the computation system or the computers which can do multiple things, people started having PC, and then PC was revolutionized a lot of things. So from a like big pocket people or the rich people, rich countries, it immediately, to expand the boundary, it reached to multiple people. So same thing happened to the space also. From a rich countries or the rich corporates like Lockheed and Boeing's of the space of the world, suddenly, thanks to innovation in semiconductor batteries, and simultaneously the SpaceX contributes plays a big role in changing the mindset of the people. So all 4 5 big major innovation timings, interventions, I will say, came together since especially last decade, that made space that reachable to probably the every country, majority of the corporates, majority of the universities that now can dream of easily building a satellite. So combination of these things has led to, and it was just a matter of time. Uh, I'm actually feel bad that it took us, since we landed on the moon in 60s,
Mhm.
it took so long to come for us to come to this level. But nonetheless, we are there, and for us to be selfish, we are at the right time, at the uh, right place, building it in India, where we can play a cost game to the world, and build some amazing technology out of India where we can serve the whole world. So that opening up the policies and a lot of innovations, changes in being the satellites, launch vehicle, reach last person last, plays a very important role, and that goes exactly very well with why we do it. That so that the potential benefits of a space can reach every last person on the earth.
What would you say is your view on the future of the Indian space industry?
Oh, Indian space industry, yes, I forgot to answer about that part. Indian space industry is like, it just took a birth. It's probably the private industry in the
Hmm.
last couple of 2 3 years, and people started taking it seriously. So it is on verge of a disruption in terms of offering it to the world. So for it's we are now it's like a baby, it's like a kid who is just starting to walk. There will be a day in few. There will be day when he starts earning and running the family. So the transition from he goes from eating to earning for a family. So space industry for India is going to be in the early days that we are using investor money to build the technologies, and then soon will be the day when we start delivering it to the world, and then the world will start recognizing what is happening in India, how effectively, how cost effective, how quality effective we can mm, you can deliver it to the world. So that will take a couple of 3 4 more years, but very fascinating. India is at the geopolitically and commercial economically. India sits at a location where the world believes in India compared to other countries where the world do not trust those countries like China, Pakistan for sure. So India has a advantage of a cost. We can build a technology at a cost that no one can match except maybe China. But the people don't trust China. So India sits at that very interesting junction that we have a good relations with many of the countries who are the major contributor in the world, and give it to them in a very cost effective way. So this is it's like we we have it's a gold mine. It's yet to be discovered by our own people. We are slowly discovered, and then probably then world is also waking up to the fact that India can be a big force in the space. From a startup perspective, we should start more and more startups should start not just thinking for next 2 3 years, 5 years. We should start thinking more from next 20 years, 50 years, 100 years, and build on those lines, and paint a bigger pictures as we go, including ourselves. And that we are correct. We are constantly asking, are we doing that, and how we can make it more grander and grander. So first thing, second thing, we should start delivering as early as possible. Because the more we deliver to the world, more the investors build our trust, customers build our trust, and the more startups or companies get encouraged, and so this gets into the infinite loop. So we should get as early as into that infinite loop, and also third most important thing is that we should start building an ecosystem out of India. So as slowly encouraging other startups to build, come help them in the process, and so that each one bit gets a benefit. So everyone should not start from zero. What we faced 3 years ago, so new startups should not face the same challenges. Now they can start somewhere ahead of it. So, and from our side, we do our best to do that. So anyone has anything interesting idea, we are always ready to help whatever way we can. Uh, those are the three things that are going to happen in space industry, and we being pioneer, that we feel that is our responsibility. So we spoke about it, and we take action from those point of view. So Indian start space industry with the help of ISRO is going to be a grand. It is going to be limited by our own vision, our own imagination. I'll say vision is a very broad weight, but it's limited by our own imagination by our own people, investors, startups, team, and everyone. There's no other boundary, not even space.
Oh, all right, definitely. And all right, this question isn't exactly related to the aerospace sector, but what was your favorite thing about your stay at IIT Bombay? Is there a sort of memory or an incident that you would like to dispense or share? I think there are a lot of freshmen here in the attendee list that have never been to our campus. I think they would love to
Uh,
hear about this.
well, I'm so sorry. I mean, I'm so sorry that you couldn't be in IIT. I mean, and I can't tell you how sorry I am for the fact that first year you're not being able to attend the college, being in the campus. I mean, probably that is uh, that that is interesting time. Nonetheless, so for me, campus is like, you can imagine, it's like to put me in little poetic way, it's like an open canvas. Uh, just and for me and for general thing, you go and draw your picture out of it, and at the end of 5 years, you can just look at what you have drawn out of it, and it can be a masterpiece, it can be just mediocre piece, or it can be one of those pictures no one cares about. So it's up to you what you make out of it. And so for me personally, I did mainly two things in IIT. Very straightforward, as we were discussing before the call. I played a lot of lawn tennis in IIT. So half of the people know me as a tennis wala. And I spent most of my time in our satellite lab. Just to sleep there, eat there, and go to the classes from there itself. So these are the pretty much two things that I did in IIT. But those are the two things that I loved the most. So I could figure out that very early that these are the things that I wanted to do, and then I did it with a wholeheartedness. So whole point of being in the college or going to the college is not to just only study. Study you can do now with the online education being so easily available with all the courses and books. You can learn anytime. So that is never an obstacle now. So role of college becomes very important to figure it out. What do you love? So, and what do you don't love? Because what do you don't want to do? Those are the two very important things. Because not just, you need to first know that you don't want to do something, and then afterwards you need to know that you want to do something out of this. So 4 years, 5 years is to figure it out, those things. At the end of the 5th year or 4th year, whatever you are, the course you are, you should know that, so that you can work on those things. If you're not, then you can go and explore more. But the idea is that you should. And how to do that? The question comes in. Well, very simple thing. You do the projects, you do the work, you do the you work with the student teams, or you start your own some of the project work. Work with the professor in different areas, and then figure it out what you love. Because probably that is IIT is probably the best time where you don't have anything to lose. If you fail, like like in a project, if you fail, then you don't have anything to lose. It was because you are trying it first time. You're a student. If you come to the corporate and you screw up, startup, if you screw up, you will get a second chance. But the second chance will be at a cost. It will be cost, it will be at the time, and it will be at investors, frowning upon you. Of course, there is always a chance. It will come at the cost compared to student life. So make best use of your IIT to figure it out what you love, and by exploring whatever you can. I took a course on philosophy of mind. So that was very, and right now for me, probably the Indian philosophy, especially Vedas, Upanishads, is a very, very core at what we do, how we do, and all the decision making at our end. So you never know what you will learn, what you will love, unless you try. So do all those things, and then figure it out what you love, and then the rest of the life you work on it. And in the further life, you start liking something else, and then go and do it. So apart from figuring out what you love, second thing is the most important thing is you need to learn is how to learn new things. Basically, develop a skill to learn new things. That's what we did it in satellite, because third year suddenly I become a project manager, and before that I was working on communication. I was from Aerospace department, but I was working on a communication ground station, and suddenly you are handling whole technology of a satellite, like controls, structures, thermals, and all the subsystem, electrical, power, and all those things. So I had to reinvent myself to learn from the team members. So ability to learn from other people, from yourself, is another very, very important quality that you can develop in IIT. And I think a lot of groundwork of that goes into how you to get into IIT, we solved a lot of physics problems where we could relate and that forms the base and the process you learn in IIT, how to learn something new and then connect the dots. So that becomes another very important skill. Now, if I go work for any other technology apart from the space, you can easily pick it up because we have a very strong foundation and we know how to learn new skills. So connecting the dot becomes straightforward. Of course, it will take some time for me to become master in that field, but I can definitely get started in that. So those things you can target learning in your IIT stay. I'm sharing this because they are first year students, so probably this will help them how plan their activities in IIT.
I
Once you
think
get
that
into IIT.
I think that line that you said is genius. That you should try new things so that at least you figure out what you don't want to do in life.
Oh, yeah. I mean, probably, yes, absolutely. I mean, many people don't know. After DRDO and before we started a Manastu Space, there was a brief period of time where we were working on a startup where with our seniors only, where we are developing, we built an app, and that app was a service like you book Ola and Uber, right? And you get a car, uh, you can rent a car. So we were doing it for household help. So you book it on the app. Within half an hour, a Didi will come to your home and clean your home or do the chopping, cleaning, and all the activity that you can tell, and then you will charge per minute. So I was one of the co-founder of that startup for a few months, and it was a Diwali time, and it was Diwali. I mean, there's a huge rush to clean the offices, and in one day, it was so much for our DDs that I actually went to that office, cleaned myself that office with. I climbed up into the stairs, cleaned all the shelves, and then we came back, and so you can say from building satellite to cleaning the offices, we have done all the things in between. But after that, after a couple of months, I realized this is not something I want to do. My love lies into the technology and the space to go particularly specifically. So I see we tried the variety of things and then figure it out. This is something I wanted to do. So once you figure it out, then your mind will not go here and there. Oh, this also looks very interesting. This also looks interesting. I should do this. I should do that. So you cut out all the options. Not having too many options is very good rather than having too many options and spoiled for options basically.
I think you shared some really wonderful insights about life. Do you also have any sort of advice for students that are looking to work in the space sector itself, especially the rocket industry?
Advice is a big word. I don't. Okay, so I can share the experience. So as an experience, if you are working to start with something on your own, it is going to be painful. Okay, it will be painful. It is not a straightforward. You'll imagine the journey is like what you see, like point A to point B, but it is never a point A to point B. It will be all the way around. You'll come back multiple times, and you go back and again come back. You go and come so multiple times. So all the shit that goes into saying you should have a passion and all those things. If you have heard the Steve Jobs talk about it really makes sense, and you should have those things. That if you're passionate about something, then you should do those things. Especially if you're starting your own company. Doing a job, I mean, you can do that. Should not be a big challenge. But if you're starting on your own, you should have that thing because as a Murphy's first law, anything and everything that can go wrong will go wrong. So that exactly, and that is applicable to space and space startups in India. Absolutely 100%. So the point is that if you really certain, then definitely get into the startup. Once you get into developing these technologies on your own, then don't ever think again whether you should do it or not. Then once you decided, then it's all in or all out. Then you can definitely get into it. Once you decide what to do, how to do it, and if you have some idea, then you can come to us, come to me. We can definitely help you. That is not an issue. But you being clear about those things that you really want to, and should be should be clear before. It's like, giving a birth. It will be painful process. You will go through all the 9 months of pregnancy, vomiting and all those things, and finally delivery. But at the end, it will be all worth it. So if you're ready to go through all these things, then they should definitely do it. Afterwards, once you decide it, then there are many people who can help you. We are absolutely there to work on it, to help to figure it out. What is next after that?
Yes, definitely. I think all the attendees must have enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. I think we should take questions now. My chat box has been flooding with questions all now. So any of you all that have any questions, please put them in the chat. I'll address the ones that have flooded me right now.
Or if you
One
can
other
put it into
question.
the common chat, then also I can immediately read and answer if anything.
All right.
Anything is
Or
okay for
maybe
me.
I'll just read the questions if
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
all
sure.
right.
Go ahead.
So one of the questions is, how did you manage academics with your passion in college?
uh, I can see the passion. To be fair, I did the passion part very well. Accounts was not so good.